Living from the heart. What does that mean? Well, I believe it means living authentically with love and courage. And I think it's a very difficult thing to do in times like these. Hi, everybody. I'm Liz Walker, and I welcome you to our From the Heart streaming, powered by the Can We Talk Network for Trauma Healing. And today, our special guest, we're going to pose the question of what does it mean to live from the heart? Our special guest is Dr. Otis Moss. Dr. Otis Moss is the senior pastor of Trinity United Church of Christ in Chicago. He is a preacher, a poet. He's an activist, an author, a filmmaker, and a warrior for justice. And his is one of the most powerful and prophetic voices in the country. So we want to welcome Dr. Moss to From the Heart. It is such an honor. I'm like a teenager. It's such an honor to have you.
Well, it is a delight to be with you, Reverend Liz. Thank you so much for allowing me to be a part of the conversation.
Well, this is an important conversation I think that we should all be having. Most observers are describing this moment in American history in political terms, but I would add that it's a moment of great fear, a moment of trauma, because that's how authoritarianism thrives. What role do you think religion plays in confronting this moment? How are you, as a pastor of a magnificent church, how are you confronting this moment in time?
Well, I believe that the faith community is called on several levels. One, to create moral clarity in moments like this, to decolonize the imagination so that we can see what is possible, to create moral imagination. What can our world be in the future? That's the primary piece, that in moments such as these, when we choose to be prophetic. And when I say prophetic, I'm not talking about fortune telling. I'm talking about forth telling, speaking truth to power. When communities of faith do this, that they have the ability to bring down empires and create spaces for people who've been marginalized. When we are rooted in with moral clarity, with moral imagination, moral courage.
And do you think that's happening? I know it's happening at your church, but how
Mhm.
can we even measure that it's happening? Should we be seeing signs of it out in the public square?
Well, there are faith communities that are co-opted by the empire, and there are faith communities that are push against the empire. There are monks who are walking across the United States, being a faith community of building peace. There are faith communities in spaces like Minneapolis that are creating spaces for people to mourn and organize. And then there are spaces that are Christian nationalists that become the tail light, not the headlight, but the tail light of an empire. To remix what Dr. King said, that we are to be the headlight, to shine a light, to bring people out of darkness into the light, not to be the tail light of empire and just join in on the ride.
So I must be naive because I want it all to be, and I don't think it's ever been this way, that we
Mhm.
all are pulling together here. We're all trying to do one thing, but it's a mismatch. It's a mismatch. Everything's going on now. Those who believe that this incident that you referred to in Minneapolis is what should happen because people were not obeying the law when this young woman was
Mm.
killed by ICE agent. Is it ever going to be any reconciliation between different religious views, or is that just my stark naivete?
There will always be a remnant. There will always be a portion of communities that recognize that we are made in the image of God, that connects with people across faith lines, people who don't even have a faith narrative. But then there will always be an empire-centric faith, a faith that is the tail light, a faith that has a script written by those in power to help those in power stay in power. It will never be the majority. The
Right.
prophetic movement is always a remnant. The civil rights movement was a small group of people. I mean, we love to think it's a lot of people, but it was really a tiny group of people who were really involved in the organizing and shifted the narrative in America.
Wow. Yeah, it's good to really bring that into perspective because we
Mhm.
have such a romanticized view of the
Mhm.
civil rights movement. You're absolutely right. I'm reading this wonderful book, How Not to Be Afraid, because I think
Mm.
we have to deal with it collectively, but we have to deal with it individually. Well, first of all, do you think we have to deal with it collectively and individually? How not to be afraid? Is fear, do you agree that fear is one of our biggest issues right now?
Oh, absolutely. Fear is a tool of the empire. Fear is a tool of the enemy. Fear is used by people who have resources and want to keep the status quo, to keep people from unlocking their imagination and saying that the world can be different. And fear, you have to work through fear. It's an inside job. I think that the book that you're mentioning mentions that we have to do internal work. Fear doesn't go away. We just have to add courage to the gumbo, to the roux. When courage is added, then we work through our fear and we get a taste of love in the process, because
Mm,
courage is calls us to work through and taste the possibility of love when we operate differently.
I'm making a note on that one. Higgins says that one of the ways, and I think you would agree with this, that we deal with this is changing the narrative in our heads,
Mhm.
changing the story. Brian
Mhm.
Stevenson talks
Yes.
about it as well. How do we begin to do that as individuals?
Mm.
What
Well,
would you?
yeah, I love the question. A story has the power to liberate. If you change your story, you can change the world.
Mm,
And we change our story in a variety of ways. One, the people you surround yourself with will whisper narratives that incarcerate or liberate. So, what is your circle of trust? The other piece, can we self reflect to understand the stories that we tell ourselves?
mm,
Can we self reflect? Is the story that we tell ourselves a story of defeat, a story of it's not possible, a story that I'm not enough? The third piece is, what are we taking in that changes our story? I'm a minister, and you minister, and we both minister, and we are part of a story. We communicate and tell a story that is a liberating story that changes our world. And when we have this different story, we begin to operate differently. It's a powerful thing. Just like when children, you tell them a different story, and all of a sudden they think they can do everything. You're brilliant. You're amazing. You are absolutely the best child to be able to write this sentence right here, and they live out the story you tell them.
yeah,
If you
yeah.
tell them a story that they can't, that they aren't worth anything, they will lower their own expectations. They will close the ceiling, and they will live under the shadow of the story that you told them. Stories are liberating, and we need storytellers in this moment that can help us unlock our imagination so that we can see our nation in a radically different way.
It is so right. You are on it. I love this. A circle of trust, self-reflection, and
Mhm.
then working on it. But it's so difficult, Otis, because the stories outside us are so loud. Uh,
Mhm.
do we do we not watch the news? Do we cut it off? How do we keep our story prominent in our heads when there's so much distraction?
Let's use the example of a person whose story we tell often. There's this gentleman I really like named Jesus, and and so I tell the story of Jesus often, and Jesus will go by himself. He will go alone. He gets away from his crew so that he can be in silence. Dr. King, when he was working on one of his books, had to go to the Gullah Islands to get away so that he could work and reflect without all of the other noise around him. Howard Thurman had to spend time away. Maya Angelou had to spend time away. We have to create spaces. You don't necessarily have to travel on a plane somewhere else. Create a space where you live where you can push aside the noise and you can, as the way Dr. Thurman says it, how good it is to center down and
Mm,
have a good session with yourself. We have
mm.
to give ourselves permission to do that.
And I think sometimes we say, well, because Dr. Thurman was doing it and then Martin Luther King, those were the prophets. That's not what I can do as just an ordinary person. But you're giving this advice to all of us, correct?
Absolutely. Every athlete does it. Any athlete we've ever, I mean, from a great high school athlete to professional athletes, whether you're talking the WNBA, you're talking about the Olympics, or you're talking about someone who's playing volleyball or lacrosse, they have rituals where they have to put themselves in a space where they envision excellence because they know at some point when I get out on the field, the noise of the crowd is going to be out there trying to distract me, and the noise of my opponent is going to be out there to distract me. So I
Mm-hmm.
have to spend time. And I just may add that I'm a big fan of LeBron James uh, on, but also off the field.
Mm-hmm.
And LeBron James has all of these rituals. Like he has to take a nap. Yes, this thing is like, I need space where I need to be able to sleep for 2 hours during the day in order to prepare myself. I need silence. I need a dark room. I need space where I can just envision how my game is going to be. All of these simple things that all of the greats have ever done, from Althea Gibson to Muhammad Ali, they all find space to reflect, to envision, to center down.
Mm. In our program, Can We Talk? These are exactly the guidelines that we give to our neighbors who are coming in who've been traumatized by violence or abuse or whatever issues that they face about taking time out, about
Mm,
slowing yourself down, about self-care. Self-care is a
mhm.
part. So that's something we can all think about right now. I love to listen to your preaching online. And in one
Oh,
recent,
that's kind.
oh, absolutely.
Mm,
You said in one sermon excerpt, you said, Black people have been saving America since we arrived on these shores. Tell me a little bit more about what you mean. And can Black people save America now? Is this on us? Because I need to get some more information.
Well, the history of the Black prophetic work of our existence in this country is we have been the expanders of democracy consistently. Every time America wanted to retreat, every time America wanted to shrink, every time America wanted to limit, um, we were the ones who expanded. The abolition movement is not a movement from people who were from Europe. It was the abolition movement comes from the people who were enslaved and said, "Before I be a slave, I'll be buried in my grave. I want to expand. I want to expand not only freedom for myself, but for the indentured servant who was from Europe." Expansion, the expansion of the movement in and around the idea of labor rights. So labor rights are also connected to the expansion of Black rights. When you're talking about where the Pullman Porters, the idea of women's suffrage.
Yeah.
Women's suffrage has to give a nod to the work of but Black women were also communicating the fact that we're all included here. It just the list goes on and on. So for our Asian brothers and sisters, for those who are our Arab brothers and sisters, when they became immigrants as people of color, the rights that they received was as a result of the work that we did. And we said it's not exclusive to us. These are not Black rights. These are civil human rights for everyone. And so the expansion and shift of the court blessed so many people.
Right.
The Voting Rights Bill and Act blesses so many people. What we call DEI, Black people were not the ones who were the beneficiaries at the largest level. The largest level was essentially white women. They were included in corporate culture at a higher rate than Black women, Black men, Asian men, Latino women, Latino men. We've always been expanding. And every time America wants to retreat, we're saying that there's a different vision. And this is a moment where I believe that our brothers and sisters of European descent are going to have to speak and stand up, because so much of what we're witnessing right now has come as a result of certain people voting in certain numbers, specifically the evangelical church, in a certain way, where they are being called to speak with moral clarity in this moment, not to retreat, but what is the vision of this nation? Is it a vision of exclusion? Is it a vision of expansion? Is it a vision of democracy, or is it a vision of theocracy? That's what's on the table at this moment.
Mm-hmm. Well, let's say we definitely need this expansion to come from
Mhm.
us. Then, how does that happen? I mean, I don't. Is Black Lives Matter still viable in the world? I don't hear much about Black Lives Matter. Not that
Uh,
that's the answer in everybody's idea,
mhm.
but it
Yeah,
certainly speaking. Go
yeah,
right ahead.
Black Lives Matter is still functioning. So are Black Votes Matter. There's a wonderful organizing happening in Georgia around voting, and one of the quiet movements that has been going on is among Black farmers who took America and states to task about the land that was stolen and has been stolen. The connection between Black and Indigenous people out west is something that has been going on for the last 25, 30 years of building these relationships. And now new relationships between Black and Latino, which is not new. I mean, we look at Elizabeth Catlett. Monica and I went to see the Elizabeth Catlett exhibit here in Chicago, and
Tell
she
us
was doing.
those who might not know.
Oh, Elizabeth Catlett is an absolutely extraordinary artist who is a part of the Harlem Renaissance. Her first husband was Charles White. She then married an amazing Mexican artist, lived in Mexico. The United States government said that she was an undesirable alien and would not allow her to come back to the United States. But all of her art focused on Black women, along with indigenous Mexican women. She believed that every person should have the ability to live to their full human potential. She lived to 90 something years old, passed in 2012. And everybody's seen her art, but you didn't know it was her. You've seen it on covers of books, and it's been used in posters. Very iconic. But she was working the Afro-Mexican connection since the turn of the century, essentially, in terms of art, and saying that we have so much in common. And seeing her art speaks to the kind of work that has been happening for decades in our community, but it may not be as loud, but
Right.
yet the work has been going on, and we're seeing the vestiges of that develop in spaces across the U.S.
So then our job, part of our job I would take from that is just to make sure we know about all of this,
Mhm.
pass on the information. I did not know that, but now we do, and we pass it on. What else can we do in these times just to feel not so powerless?
I think this is a moment in a time where we not only organize, but we become creators. creators, not in the sense of like digital creation, but uh, art creation and building community together, and then organizing in such a way around policy to say, what is it that I believe in? If you believe in human flourishing, if you believe that people are made in the image of God, then how does policy in my local community recognize that? Is that policy speak to, say, for something as simple as we want to make sure that people who are unhoused have homes? Does it speak to this fact that maybe my faith community is a sanctuary for people um, who are fearful in this moment? Is it a space where we are sharing
Mhm.
stories of liberation and stories of transformation, stories that inspire, passing stories? And sometimes one of the best things that you can do is just give a story that will bless somebody's spirit in a way that they will be able to take off some chains that are around their wrists or ankles.
I love that. I love that. And we can all take part in what you're saying, correct? I mean,
Hmm.
nobody
Absolutely.
nobody has to sit this one out, I
No,
think. I think
not at all.
we think because uh, our world is being led by people who are very loud, who have the narrative.
Hmm.
I think that that scares us to the point that we think we don't have a voice. But what you're
Yes,
saying, that we still have a voice, and we have to keep, do not grow weary in doing good. I think that's
that's
what we
right. That's right. That's right.
just keep at it. This has been fascinating. You come from a religious and social justice dynasty. Your father, Otis Moss II, the second, excuse me, was a hero of the civil rights movement. Tell us about your call to ministry. Was it just instantaneous? Were you born into ministry? Were you preaching at 2 years old? Did you struggle with it like I did? Tell us a little bit about your background.
I was, as you mentioned before, I grew up in a faith community. My father was a pastor. Both my mother and father come out of the civil rights movement, working in that community. I struggled with my call. I wanted to be a filmmaker, and it took me years to kind of arrive at that, because you could only go the way I was raised and during my era, either do this, or this. You don't have this interdisciplinary, fluid aspect of how you experience your passions and your call. And so filmmaking, and then I said maybe it'll be a lawyer or an activist or uh,
Wow.
all of these things I'm working through, and it's some type of academic. And I received my call at Morehouse College, but I thought I would do the academy. I was still trying to figure out how do I do film, and it just took me a while to be pulled into pastoral ministry as I had my eyes set on either the academy or still trying to figure out how to do film. So it took me a long time to merge. I'm still working through my call.
Hmm.
So
Hmm.
how do you take all of the things that you feel that God has placed in your spirit, uh, ministry, but film, poetry, understanding the arts and pastoring. How do you merge all those things? And it's taken me a long time to realize that you don't have to hold on to one piece. They all fit together. That poetry and preaching go together, and filmmaking go together, and art go. All of those things are connected. They're not disconnected.
That's so inspiring for us. What do you think gives you the greatest hope right now in the midst of all the madness? What inspires you?
When I saw those monks walking across America, that absolutely inspires me. When I witness young artists, there's a young man here in Chicago by the name of Chance the Rapper. His latest project called The Star Line, which is named after Marcus Garvey's Star Line. He has some incredible, he's more of a poet than he is, in the traditional, like, I mean, rappers are poets, but he really is a poet. and he has some extraordinary pieces that speak to what is happening. Incredibly inspiring. There's another young man from Chicago by the name of Vic Mensa. He's also a hip hop artist. Young people love him, but he made a decision that I'm just going to use my platform to talk about and educate people what is happening in America. And he has an incredible critique of economics. This young man who's just having this economic critique that's so inspiring. A woman by the name of Reverend Sierra Bates Chamberlain, who runs the Live Free program here, which is an anti-violence program that our church works with. And seeing that kind of leadership on the local level, witnessing the organizing and the way Zoran Mamdani, but it's really the person behind him. There's a woman who assisted in how they do the online work, and
Mhm.
he did some of the most amazing commercials. And they really weren't commercials. It was just a man on the street where he would ask people, "What do you think needs to happen in New York?" And no politician had thought about actually talking to people on the street and asking them, what's going on in your neighborhood and what are you frustrated about? It went completely viral. It was brilliant within this 45-second minute series of hearing people's frustrations about government and not trying to tell them, hey, you need to do this, vote for me, but just literally listening and building a campaign around that listening, which I thought
Mhm.
was really incredible. So those things really inspire me, seeing people do the creative work that begins to move the needle.
Wow. Well, thank you so much for sharing what inspires you with us, and you inspire the rest of us. So we're so glad you're around.
That's
Oh,
so kind of you.
thanks for joining us.
Thank you.